Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, Sikh. We, the people of the United States, can live out our faiths freely because of a guarantee enshrined in the First Amendment to the Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. America was founded on a revolutionary ideal.
To me, freedom of religion is everything.
Toleration is insufficient. We need equal liberty.
Concern about religious liberty is as old as America itself.
What happens when those freedoms are taken away from us?
This is the story of the greatest experiment in religious liberty the world has ever seen.
You are the first Black president. Do you expect this country will see this again?
Well, I'll answer the last question first. I think we're going to see people of merit rise up from every race, faith, corner of this country, because that's America's strength. When we have everybody getting a chance and everybody's on the field, we end up being better. I think I've used this analogy before.
Good morning, America. I'm Charles Gibson.
I'm Diane Sawyer, and it's Tuesday, September 11th, 2001.
Breaking news.
This just in, you are looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
Today we've had a national tragedy. Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. The American people were appalled and outraged, and so were Muslims all across the world. Both Americans, our Muslim friends and citizens, tax-paying citizens, Muslims and nations, were just appalled and could not believe what we saw on our TV screens. The face of terror is not the true faith of Islam. That's not what Islam is all about. Islam is peace. These terrorists don't represent peace. When we think of Islam, we think of a faith that brings comfort to 1 billion people around the world. Billions of people find comfort and solace and peace, and that's made brothers and sisters out of every race. America counts millions of Muslims amongst our citizens, and Muslims make an incredibly valuable contribution to our country, and they need to be treated with respect. In our anger and emotion, our fellow Americans must treat each other with respect. Women who cover their heads must feel comfortable going outside their homes. Moms who wear cover must not be intimidated in America. That's not the America I know. That's not the America I value. Because by wearing cover, they're afraid they'll be intimidated. That should not and that will not stand in America. Those who feel like they can intimidate our fellow citizens to take out their anger don't represent the best of America. They represent the worst of humankind, and they should be ashamed of that kind of behavior. Now, this is a great country. It's a great country because we share the same values of respect and dignity and human worth. And it is my honor to be meeting with leaders who feel just the same way I do. They're outraged, they're sad, they love America just as much as I do.
9 years after the September 11th attacks, why do you think it is that we are now seeing such an increase in suspicion and outright resentment of Islam, especially given that it has been one of your priorities to improve relations with the Muslim world?
One of the things that I most admired about President Bush was after 9/11, him being crystal clear about the fact that we were not at war with Islam. We were at war with terrorists and murderers who had perverted Islam, had stolen its banner to carry out their outrageous acts. And I was so proud of the country rallying around that idea, that notion, that we are not going to be divided by religion, we're not going to be divided by ethnicity, we are all Americans, we stand together against those who would try to do us harm. You know, we have to make sure that we don't start turning on each other. I will do everything that I can, as long as I'm President of the United States, to remind the American people we are one nation.
Do you think Islam is at war with the West?
I think Islam hates us. There's something there that there's a tremendous hatred there. There's a tremendous hatred. We have to get to the bottom of it. There is an unbelievable hatred of us.
In Islam itself?
You're going to have to figure that out, okay? You'll get another Pulitzer, right? But you're going to have to figure that out. But there is a tremendous hatred, and we have to be very vigilant. We have to be very careful, and we can't allow people coming into this country who have this hatred of the United States.
I guess the question is,
and of people that are not Muslim.
I guess the question is there a war between the West and radical Islam, or is there a war between the West and Islam itself?
It's radical, but it's very hard to define. It's very hard to separate because you don't know who's who.
There's a threat to our freedom that is not often talked about enough. And it is the greatest near and long-term threat to both our freedom and our security, and that is the threat of Islamist ideology. It is a political ideology that seeks to create a global caliphate that governs us here in America, threatening Western civilization, governance by Sharia law, governance by what they are calling their Islamic principles. And if you fail to comply, if you fail to adhere to this ideology, if you dare to exercise your God-given right to free speech, censorship is not what we face. They will use violence or any means they deem as necessary to silence us.
Anti-Muslim protests on the streets of Texas.
They're taking over political control, and they're trying to shift the actual demographics in our country.
And a place of worship being targeted. There is a rise in Islamophobia in America.
Do you think America is entering a new age of Islamophobia?
Well, Islamophobia has always existed, especially after 9/11. I think that there's a lot of political components to this, and it is growing. At the same time, a lot of it, I can say this, is built on misinformation. See, everyone gets their news from social media nowadays, and there's a lot of hateful rhetoric on social media. At the same time, there are a lot of people who don't represent Islam the best way. They are speaking for Islam. They are coming up with their fringe opinions, which is contrary to mainstream opinions about Islam and Muslims. Don't learn about Islam from social media. You understand? Social media is very, very misleading. We're not here to proselytize. It is against our religion to force religion on anyone else. You know, this is a country where all religions were respected. When you see the founding fathers of this country and what they were representing, what they stood for, we have drifted from that a whole lot. And that's why it's really sad that we have to have all these measures, but unfortunately, our politicians are not doing enough good of a job. They are saying things that fits the narrative of the opposition, and that is why it has created a very difficult situation for many of us. And this, while we are a minority here, an extreme minority here in this country, the measures that we have to take is more than anyone else.
The 9/11 attacks by al-Qaeda terrorists 2 decades ago ignited a wave of anti-Muslim sentiment across the country. Tonight, we visit one of the largest Arab Muslim communities in America to explore the long legacy of that day in 2001 and how Islamophobia continues to influence Muslim Americans. A grassroots movement is now underway to change the narrative about Islam and patriotism.
At Kawa House in Dearborn, Michigan, Yemeni coffee is caffeinating a resilient immigrant community. Owner Ibrahim Al-Haspani imports the beans from his family's farm in western Yemen. Each aromatic cup a source of personal pride and a symbol of the American dream. It's also home to the largest concentration of Muslims in the United States, who've endured 2 decades of scrutiny after the 9/11 attacks.
So I don't remember a world before 9/11, but I do know, as a kid, you don't know what racism is, but you feel it. You feel the way that the white dance moms at the dance studio stopped talking to my mom the day after 9/11 because she was an Arab. People associate people who look like us with an event that we didn't create, we have nothing to do with, and we quite frankly shouldn't be made to feel like we're apologizing for.
Both say the events of 9/11 have cast a long shadow.
If you asked me to choose where my American and Muslim and Arab identities start and end, and I sat down for an hour and tried to figure it out, I would not be able to do that. And I think, you know, post 9/11, we really were made to feel like they were mutually exclusive, which is kind of hard to grapple with.
That quiet struggle over identity is playing out in Muslim communities nationwide, advocates say. Dearborn has been leading the conversation, a model of peaceful coexistence between Christian, Jewish, and Muslim Americans thriving together.
I think it says that Abdullah is as American a name as any other. If you are not familiar with a religion or a people, it's to ask questions, it's to try to learn. The most radical thing is willful ignorance.
But Dearborn's success and claim to the nation's largest mosque have also made the city a frequent target.
Many at the Arab International Festival saw hate.
While many Dearborners grieved the dead on 9/11-2001, outsiders have used the city over the past 20 years as a stage for conspiracy theories, bigotry, and hate.
This community has been an epicenter of anti-Muslim hate and xenophobia. When it comes to issues such as school bullying, workplace discrimination, and harassment by government officials, this has steadily gotten worse.
FBI hate crime data show a surge in anti-Muslim incidents after the 2001 attacks, with another wave hitting in 2015.
I think Islam hates us.
Islamic terrorists. Fear of Muslims fueled by the rhetoric of then-candidate Donald Trump. Half of U.S. adults in 2017 said they believe Islam is still not part of mainstream American society.
The Trump rhetoric allowed people who already harbored anti-Muslim bigotry, racism, and xenophobia, it gave them license to say it publicly and act upon it.
I think one of the legacies is that it's a community that continued to be otherized.
Petra El-Soufi studies public opinion of Islam with the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding. The group was created in Dearborn after 9/11 to combat misconceptions about Muslims.
Are you American? Are you Muslim? Is there a conflict between these two identities? And actually what the research shows is the stronger the religious identity, the stronger the American identity.
Imam Ahmed Kazwini grew up in Dearborn, where his father was a community faith leader on 9/11.
So my great-grandfather was executed by Saddam. That's why we fled Iraq. We need to speak out and, show America what the real religion of Islam is. It's a peaceful religion, a religion of love. 9/11 had a huge impact on Muslims living in the U.S. Number one, we can start on a government level. There has been a lot of racial and religious profiling against Muslims, and it's very evident when you enter the U.S., when you cross the border. Airports, yes. Even me personally, after 9/11, I don't feel like I'm being treated like a normal American.
3 in 4 American Muslims say there's a lot of discrimination in the U.S. today, a sentiment that studies show has steadily grown since 2001.
Let me begin today by addressing the horrific shooting in Sutherland Springs, Texas. Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and families of today's horrible and murderous attack. This act of evil occurred as the victims and their families were in their place of sacred worship. We cannot put into words the pain and grief we all feel, and we cannot begin to imagine the suffering of those who lost the ones they so dearly loved. And through the tears and through the sadness, we stand strong, oh so strong. And I think that mental health is your problem here. This was a very, based on preliminary reports, very deranged individual. A lot of problems over a long period of time. We have a lot of mental health problems in our country, as do other countries. But this isn't a guns situation. I mean, we could go into it, but it's a little bit soon to go into it. But fortunately, somebody else had a gun that was shooting in the opposite direction. Otherwise, it would have been as bad as it was. It would have been much worse. But this is a mental health problem at the highest level. It's a very, very sad event. These are great people and a very, very sad event. But that's the way I view it.
As public school districts prepare for a new school year, many are worrying about dwindling resources stemming from federal funding cuts. Many states are sounding the alarm about grants for mental health counselors and social workers.
People make fun of me because of my weight.
Students are in a group counseling session.
You may not be ready to talk to me right now, but when you are, I'm here for you.
Andrea Tarsi, one of the district's 19 mental health staffers serving 6,500 students for the last 3 years, may soon be out of a job.
Without that support staff in the building, students are unable to get the mental health services that they need. And when it comes to crises, not having proper staffing in the building is a safety issue for everybody.
In April, the Trump administration abruptly discontinued millions of dollars in mental health grants designed to help students with their mental health needs, citing DEI issues. In a statement, the Department of Education told us in part that it found that the grant recipients used the funding to implement race-based actions like recruiting quotas.
We hired the best we could find. And I don't even know how to say that. I mean, we didn't hire any counselor of color. People deal with trauma in their lives, and when that happens, they need someone to talk to.
Islamophobia is not a new phenomenon. It has a long and sordid history in this country. But the reason that it's on the rise now, the reason that it's escalating all around the country, is that the U.S. needs Islamophobia to breed support for these wars against Muslim-majority countries. Because if you don't demonize Muslims at home, how do you think you're going to raise a generation of young people who are prepared to pick up a gun and go fight against Muslims in a country they can't even find on a map? It's only when you demonize people and convince young soldiers that they are not worth it. They did it in Vietnam by calling people gooks. They did it in World War II by calling people Japs. And when you round people up and put them in concentration camps in the desert, saying that they're all a threat to us because they're of Japanese ancestry, citizenship be damned, you're telling young soldiers that anyone who looks like that is dangerous and worthy of dying.
A former intelligence officer in the United States Army, Josephine Gilbo, gave an incredible speech calling out the United States for its unlawful war in Iran. She described the definition of terrorism and described how the United States loitering over Iran and attacking elementary schools like the one in Manab that killed 165 little girls, while Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump brag about raining death from above, is the definition of terrorism. And she applies her experience. You know, she's just saying, look, the troops, the young troops, they're being sent to potentially die in this war against Iran that has no clearly defined objectives. It's other than Donald Trump was chasing Netanyahu to attack Iran. Donald Trump now is saying that he wants to do deals with the Ayatollah in the Strait of Hormuz, and Trump's attacking NATO, and he's removing sanctions against Russian oil and Iranian oil. He's flailing, and ultimately our troops are the ones who are making the ultimate sacrifice and paying the price for Donald Trump's bloodlust.
My name's Josephine Gilbo. I'm a former intelligence officer. I spent 17 years in the U.S. Army. I've held a top secret clearance with a polygraph, just to give you an idea of my access and experience when it comes to these assignments. I was a counterterrorism officer in the U.S. Army. And I want to give you the definition of terrorism as we use it here in the United States. Terrorism is the premeditated use of violence or threat of violence against civilians or property to induce fear, coercion, or intimidation aimed at government or societies to achieve political, religious, or ideological objectives. 165 little girls were killed by United States tomahawks from a United States vessel in the area of operation. A modern Tomahawk missile is equipped with onboard cameras, real-time targeting imagery. Satellite imagery is constantly collected by several intelligence agencies, several countries in real time. It was without a doubt a school when you looked at it through the onboard camera of the Tomahawk missile. USS Brunitz, who shot a Tomahawk and killed 165 little girls. No pause for review, no pause for investigation, no calls for this command to appear in front of Congress and report to the American people why we just bombed a school knowing it was a school. Nothing. Silence. Lies. Excuses. Who are the terrorists? Who are the bad guys in this story? This is the story of our timeline. By our own definition of terrorism, and I can say this as a former counter-terrorist officer, we are the terrorists. Our U.S. military is about to die. They are at the bottom of the totem pole. That's the reality of it. In this whole scheme, they're the pawn. Slaves to the elite, the Epstein class. And the hardest thing about everything I'm saying right now is none of us up here can save them. No matter what we say today, no matter if we cry, no matter if we yell, we will not save them. But I'm gonna try. I call on USS Tripoli Commander Captain Patrick J. Sullivan. Stop the ship now. Turn the ship around now. You are going to be complicit in war crimes and the death of our brothers and sisters, of Marines, of your Marines.
Maybe the politics is separate the people from each other, but the coffee is bring them in one table.
Coffee is something that brings people together.
Yeah, always.
Always.